Governments worldwide are aggressively building their sovereign wealth funds. It's a powerful trend to secure their economic futures. Today I'm going to show you exactly why you need your own personal version of a sovereign wealth fund. Because if you think you don't need one just because you're not a government, you could be exposing your future to more risk than you realize. Welcome to Sovereign Stash. I'm Anna. A few years ago, I was deep in the corporate slave grind, saving, investing, chasing more senior roles so I could earn more to then save, invest, etc. Convinced that was the way to build a secure future. But then I realized the future I was working so hard for might not even exist by the time I got there. At the time, I was a product manager for a workforce data analytics platform. My job was helping some of the world's biggest companies map every task of every role to see what AI could automate or augment. So every day I watched companies actively planning which skills to replace and which jobs to phase out. It made me seriously question how stable the careers we all depend on really are. Now listen, I'm not here to scare you or freak you out. The opposite, actually. I believe in education and preparation. When you see the risks clearly, you can actually feel calmer because you can then make moves that put you back in control. Now, for years I've been diving deep into another rabbit hole: blockchain, crypto, the history of money and markets, and studying to understand how our global economy and financial systems really work. The more I learn, the clearer it becomes. AI and crypto aren't just new technology trends. They're the most disruptive forces on our way of life in a long, long time. They're completely rewriting the rules on how we work, how we earn, and how we store and protect value. And once you start seeing how fast the ground is shifting, you also start noticing something else. The people in charge, the governments, the big institutions, they're not sitting idle. They know the system's unstable, and they're quietly stockpiling gold, Bitcoin, and critical infrastructure to build their sovereign wealth buffers. And I realized if they're taking steps to protect themselves, why wouldn't I? That's when I started building my own sovereign wealth fund from scratch, what I call my sovereign stash. It's a collection of assets designed to shield my future as the old system grows shakier and a new AI and crypto economy takes shape. My goal is to strategically position myself for the future, rather than leave it to a fragile job market or financial systems that are already working against your average salary-dependent person. I created this channel to share what I've learned because crypto, AI, and money matters can seem overwhelming, but they don't have to be. My goal is to help you make sense of the changes, position yourself smartly, and build real financial freedom. Because I believe when you own the right assets, freedom and security will follow. In this video, I'm laying out 7 clear reasons you need your own sovereign stash for the future. If that sounds important to you, hit like, subscribe, and let's get into it. It's important that you know when you buy things like stocks, you technically don't fully own them. They sit with a broker who has control, and they can freeze your trading, for example, when markets get too volatile. Anyone who's attempted to sell stocks or crypto on a centralized exchange in a major crash knows the feeling. Suddenly your trading platform glitches or goes offline right when you need it most. Let's be real, it's not an accident. Your custodian is protecting themselves, not you. Now your cash also lives in a bank that can lock you out during a crisis. For example, in 2023, when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, thousands of business owners couldn't access their own payroll funds for days. It's because technically your money plays by their rules once you give it to a bank. Your retirement account is also managed by a fund you don't control. The reality is these types of arrangements we have with traditional custodians are like IOUs. When push comes to shove and the pressure hits, custodians like brokers, banks, and funds look out for themselves first. Yes, there are some protections for us as consumers, so you can eventually get access to your money, usually, but the point stands. Once you give your money to them, they have the control. A sovereign stash flips that. It's about assets you directly hold, where no middleman can lock you out of your account, because real ownership doesn't depend on someone else's permission. And hey, if this sounds heavy, don't worry. I'm not about to tell you to move to a bunker and live off canned beans. We're just talking about setting yourself up for your future smarter. Now let's talk about something else that's fundamental to be aware of, but usually unspoken. The global financial system runs on belief or trust, basically. Trust that dollars will hold value day after day. Trust that banks won't collapse. Trust that retirement accounts will pay out when you need them. But that belief is cracking. People don't trust banks like they used to. Consumer confidence got slammed after 2008 and it still hasn't bounced back. If you look around globally, we've got Lebanon's currency. It crashed over 98% from 2019 to 2023. gutting their people's savings. Turkey's inflation spiked above 50% in 2022. Argentina's been wrestling with runaway inflation too, hitting 140% in 2023. And there's many more nations watching decades of their savings and purchasing power dramatically decrease because their banks and governments couldn't hold it together. In fact, the rate of failure of national currencies is a lot higher than you realize. A sovereign stash is built on assets that don't rely on banks or governments. It's your safety net when totally trusting these systems and institutions doesn't appear wise, based on the evidence at least. And if you think the people running banks and governments are fixing our current system, take a closer look. They're actually busy securing their own assets first. Governments are hoarding gold at the fastest rate in decades, stacking their reserves to brace for currency shocks. Sovereign wealth funds are piling into critical infrastructure like energy grids and commodities like metals because hard assets hold value when paper money falters. Even BlackRock, after calling Bitcoin worthless for years, pushed a Bitcoin ETF the second regulators allowed. They're not speculating, they're hedging. If institutions once skeptical of crypto are now grabbing it, what else are they now preparing for that we're not hearing about yet? They're certainly not focused on your financial education on how the whole system works. It's on us to educate ourselves so we can get ahead of them and not be the last to wake up. A sovereign stash is your way to play their game because if the heavyweights are hedging, we'd be foolish not to. Speaking of ownership, let's dig into something many aim to own, your home, and why it's not the rock-solid asset it seems either. Real estate can feel like the ultimate win. It's your house, your home, it's your castle. And real estate is great, but it's not bulletproof sovereignty. If you have a mortgage, the bank owns it until your very last payment clears. If you manage to pay off your mortgage, owning your own home feels amazing, I'm sure, until you realize you're essentially leasing it from the government forever because they hit you with a lifetime bill in the form of property tax or some other council tax or other tax, depending on your jurisdiction. So if you can't afford those government bills, you can still lose the home you supposedly own. And eminent domain laws means the government can force you to sell if it suits public needs, like a highway or a pipeline or a tunnel, and good luck fighting them. A sovereign stash diversifies into portable assets and avoids assets that come with a government bill. I'm not saying sell your house and live in a van, unless you want to, in which case send me pics because I love a good van build. And while we're rethinking the roof over our head, let's face the biggest change to your income. AI isn't just robots, it's reshaping what pays well. My time as a product manager showed me companies mapped tasks to see what AI could handle. Estimates suggested up to 40% of tasks in industries like law, finance, and even healthcare admin roles could change within just a few years. Entire industries are pivoting, and skills that paid well yesterday might not tomorrow. And even if the pay is the same, there may be precious few jobs available. I saw companies plan for headcount cuts years out, not because they wanted to, but because AI is simply faster and cheaper. This isn't about overnight job losses. It's more about the slow shake-up to the career paths we've been banking on. A sovereign stash is your backup for when your paycheck's no longer a sure thing. Because in an AI world, owning something solid beats hoping your skills stay relevant. Now let's talk about why you need assets that break free from the system entirely. If banks can freeze your cash, brokers can lock your stocks, and governments can devalue your savings, what do you really own? Unfortunately, most assets in the system come with strings, middlemen, rules, risks. That's why a sovereign stash needs assets you alone control, like Bitcoin or physical gold. Bitcoin isn't just volatile internet money. Bitcoin is modern sovereignty in code. You store it, you control it. Unlike dollars or stocks, it's got a fixed supply and it's borderless. No bank can freeze it. You move it without asking permission. It's decentralized and auditable. Gold is similar. It's yours. No bank required. These aren't get-rich bets, but they're your shield when trust in systems fails, as we've seen with bank runs or currency crashes. By the way, if you're finding this helpful and want to go deeper into why the US is now stockpiling Bitcoin, check out my video, Trump's Crypto Pivot, Why the US is Hoarding Bitcoin but Alts Are in Limbo. It's a great next step if you're serious about understanding how the big players are quietly positioning themselves. I'll link it in the description. But here's the catch. Building your sovereign stash takes time, and that's why you shouldn't put it off. You don't build a sovereign stash in a panic. It's not something you can buy at the crisis counter. It's a mindset, life choices and financial decisions made while the system's still humming along. Most people don't see how big the cracks are until it's too late, when the banks freeze or jobs vanish, or currencies are already hyperinflating. Governments don't stockpile gold just during crises. They plan decades ahead. It's something you grow slowly and quietly while everyone else is distracted or complacent, trusting things will stay as they are. You don't need their billions. Here's some practical ways you can start small. Set aside some cash you control, not in a bank. Buy some Bitcoin and gold that you self-custody. Acquire productive, real-world assets, ideally ones you can move if needed. Develop skills, knowledge, or your own IP that will remain valuable in the future or hold up in any economy. Each step you take builds your resilience. Start today and you're ahead. The truth is, no one's coming to save us. Not the banks, not the governments, not the corporations. The system protects itself. We have to protect ourselves. That's why I'm growing my sovereign stash and acquiring and building assets and skills that can be resilient in times of change. And it's why I believe you should build your stash too. Not because the sky is falling, but because freedom and control comes from foundations we build and own ourselves. I believe financial freedom isn't a fantasy, it's a strategy. And if you're ready to start building your own sovereign stash, make sure you've subscribed to the channel. I've also got previous videos that dive deeper into how I manage my own crypto stash and how I approach portfolio building. You can watch them after this. And coming up, I'll be breaking down even more strategies for growing and protecting a sovereign stash in today's economy. As always, this is all just my opinion and not financial advice. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.